Hey, good morning to everybody. It's Daryl P here, aka Artist in Recovery. And I never thought I would be sitting in front of a camera talking about this. If you had told me this 20 years ago, I would have told you were crazy, that I would have denied everything. I've done a video before talking about Charlie Sheen and his new book. I feel like I have a lot in common with Charlie Sheen. And he has a new book called The Book of Sheen. And I did a video about this. I did a video talking about this same kind of thing probably about a month back, and it got good views. And he was actually just on In Depth with Graham Benzinger, and he was kind of clarifying Charlie Sheen. He was in an interview, and he was talking about his book, and he was kind of clarifying what he had said about having sex with other men back when he was smoking rock. Like I said, I have a lot in common with Charlie Sheen. I used for 2 decades. I started in my teens. By my 20s, I was dealing. I started smoking rock. I got into everything. I got clean and sober when I was 40 years old. I've been clean and sober now for 19 years. I just celebrated my 19-year anniversary, October 23rd, 2006. Let me tell you about what Charlie Sheen says. Okay, so he talks about you probably all heard about how he had porn stars at his mansion, and how he got kicked off 2.5 Men and all that. But he talks about being intimate with guys, and I'll put the TMZ article right down below in the video description so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And he said he said it feels good getting this off his chest. He admits to having bisexual encounters with guys back when he was using. And like I said, I did a video talking about this before, but now in this article he clarifies. Now I got to be kind of sensitive how I talk about this if I want to keep this YouTube channel. He more or less says that the interactions between him and other men were more or less oral. They didn't involve backdoor stuff. I guess that's the way I could say it. I hope I could say that. And he says that it's kind of freeing getting this off his chest. Now he's been clean and sober. I'm not sure for how long. Probably a little less. Probably about almost the same length I've been. Like I said, I've been clean and sober for 19 years. And this struck a chord with me. I'm doing this video. I'm talking about this because for other people, for other guys, especially other guys that have had similar, I know this has affected other men. I know this is a common thing when they use this type of drug, that it interacts with their sexuality. Back when I was using, especially rock, as soon as I let that first hit out, my personality would flip. I would get excited. I would get stimulated, let's just say. My mind would just go right to sex. And every time I used, when I first started using back in my 20s, it was with other people. It was at parties and stuff like that. But once my addiction got worse, I would just use by myself. And every day I would just go get my stuff. And I would use in my car. And as soon as I let that first hit out, my mind would flip. And I would start thinking about sex. And I would go to an adult bookstore. And this is what I would do every day. And in these adult bookstores, they would have back rooms, arcades, and they would have glory holes in between the walls. The walls in between the booths where you could put your junk through. And this is what I would do. I would use and I would go to these adult bookstores. Of course, I did other things. I interacted with women, and nobody knew it. To the best of my knowledge, nobody knew about this secret life that I had. The reason I'm talking about this is because I share so much in common with Charlie Sheen. I would go in there, and I think it was just the lure. It was possible for me to have sex at any time. I could go in there, and it was always there. Like this, I imagine the store opened at like 9 in the morning. They stayed open till like 11 at night. So whenever I was using, I could just go there, and there was always men in the back room cruising, or whatever you would call it. And I could go into a room, and I'd put on a straight video, and I would interact with whoever came into the booth next door to me. Let me say this: once I got clean and sober, I was in a methadone clinic, and I had to get a physical every year. And my first physical, they asked me if I wanted a test to be tested for sexually transmitted diseases. And that first year, I said no, because I was so terrified. Because over 2 decades, I was having the most dangerous, anonymous interactions with both men and women. The second year that I was clean and sober, I had the physical again, and I got tested. And I thank the Lord. I don't know how, but I was totally negative. I was clean on everything, and I've been tested subsequently since. I actually stopped being tested 5-6 years ago because I've been celibate for 5 or 6 years now. So there's really no point in it. Like I said, the reason I'm making this, there's actually a good side to this. I have not set foot in one of these adult bookstores since I've been clean and sober for 19 years. And it's not just because for the first year or two, I had the urge to go back there. Like I said, I think it was the lure of just instant anonymous gratification. Men, women, we get horny, and it was just the lure of being able to interact anonymously. There was no strings, no nothing. I could just go in there and do whatever I wanted to do and leave, and that was it. I would never have any, that was attractive to me back then. It was nice, and it didn't seem like there was any cost to it, no emotional cost, no emotional interaction, and that was attractive to me back then. Now, the first year, I had the temptation to go back to these places, but I knew that if I stepped foot in one of these stores, even I had been clean for a year, but I knew that if I set foot in one of these stores, it would be a trigger for me. I had that little voice in my head telling me, well, you're clean, but you could just go in there just to watch a movie. You don't have a girlfriend right now. You could just go in there and watch a movie. I heard that little voice in my head, and I never followed through on it because I knew that was a lie. I knew that was a trigger for me. And the following years, the desire, the temptation to go to these places just disappeared. And since then, I'm not saying that it's bad to be gay or anything like that, but I realized that I wasn't gay. The interactions I had were gay, I guess you'd call them. But in the last 19 years, since I've been clean and sober, like I said, the temptation was there for the first year, and it was just kind of the remnants of my addiction, the lure going back there. But for the year, like right now, I don't have the temptation to go to any of these stores, and I haven't gone there, and I've had no interactions with other men in 19 years. So that, it's not like I'm forcing myself just to be straight. It's just I just don't have the desire to do that. And I look back and I realize that this drug was affecting my mind. It was affecting my sexuality. And so Charlie Sheen talks about it in this book, and especially in this article that I'm going to put down below. And it sounds exactly what I was dealing with. And he talks about how it feels good to get this off his chest, and in a way, it does. It does feel good. I'm almost 60 years old, and I really just don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I've done what I've done, and I am who I am, and you can take it or leave it. You can say whatever you want. It's not gonna, sticks and stones kind of thing. But the reason, like I said, the reason I'm making this video is because for the last 19 years that I've been clean and sober, I just haven't had the urge to act out in that manner. So that really wasn't who I was. I could see that now. The drug was affecting my character, my personality, and it was affecting my sexuality. And when I read this article by Charlie Sheen, it was exactly to a T, the same kind of stuff I was doing back when I was using. And that being said, I'm sure there's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or even millions of other men out there that have had this similar kind of ordeals, the same kind of temptations, the same kind of interactions, and are ashamed to talk about it. And that's why I'm doing this video. Recovery is possible. The last 19 years of my life have been the best I've ever had. Out of all my 60 years, the last 19 years have been fantastic. All right. Like I said, the link to that is right down below the article. You guys have a good Sunday.